Welcome to the Path of Mantra podcast, where I share insights on yoga, tantra, and Shakti sadhana. This podcast is dedicated to all sincere spiritual aspirants from East and West who embrace mantra as a core tool of personal and spiritual growth. My name is Giovanni Dinstman, and I'm your host. I invoke the blessings of my Gurudev, Swami Nikhileshwarananda, and of the great goddess. The topic of today is practice in daily life. What does it mean to practice the path of mantra in daily life? Other than making time for the sadhana, the spiritual practice, what should we keep in mind? What are the do's and don'ts? What are the principles that we're trying to embody? Surprisingly, most scriptures and ancient books on mantra don't talk about this. It was expected that when an aspirant has come to this point, they know they have the spiritual background or they have a teacher. In the past, they would have been born and raised most likely in a Brahmin family. They have learned about the Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita, and all the principles for spiritual living. And then learning the path of mantra is like an added tool within that context. So a lot of these gaps I had to fill with my own practice, study, conversations with my guru and his advanced disciples, experimentation, self-reflection, etc. The first concept that is helpful here is the idea of purity. That in the path of mantra, our body and mind are an instrument. The mantra is what this instrument is playing, and the deity is the target. In one of the main Upanishads, it is explained that the body is like the bow, the mind is the string, the mantra is the arrow, and the deity is the target. And so the quality of the energy vibration that we can create through mantra depends on the purity of our body and mind. And purity of our body and mind is not something that is achieved 5 minutes before you do the mantra. Yes, there are specific rituals and mantras and visualizations that are done in the path of mantra right before you do the mantra that will purify you to some degree. But how we live our life, the thoughts we think, the words we say, the feelings we have, the actions we do, all of that can be helping us achieve purity, or can be creating subtle, energetic, and karmic obstacles. And so we want to live our life in a way that our daily life is a continuation of our practice, and our practice is an enhancement and a deepening of our daily life. And here is where the yamas and niyamas of yoga come in. The yamas and niyamas are found in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. They are rules, or rather principles, about what we should do and what we should avoid. Now, going in depth on the 5 yamas and niyamas is beyond the scope of this short episode. So I encourage you to do your own research, but I will briefly mention them. The 5 yamas are the restraints, are the things not to do. So we have ahimsa, non-violence, satya, truthfulness, asteya, not taking what's not given. And these three, yes, and the same lines as do not kill, do not lie, do not steal. Then we have brahmacharya, which, depending on if you are a renunciant or if you live in the world, it means different things. But the core of it is to exercise moderation regarding sexual energy and indulgence of the five senses in general. And then aparigraha, which is non-possessiveness, non-greed. So following these 5 yamas will help you maintain yourself energetically and karmically clean for your practice of connecting yourself to higher energies, to higher entities. Now, the reading of these yamas and niyamas is different in yoga and tantra. But as a general rule, practicing and following them will be beneficial for your mantra practice. Then the 5 niyamas, the things that we need to do. Saucha means purity, maintaining the body, the mind, the speech, and the environment clean. Santosha, contentment. It is very hard to focus on a mantra or on anything else when our mind is unhappy, when our mind is discontent, when our mind is jumping from branch to branch trying to fix things or to figure things out or to achieve things, when it's in a state of distraction or distress. How can we focus? How much power, how much prana can we put in our mantra? Then the 3rd niyama is tapas. Tapas means austerity. Literally, tapas means heat. Whenever we are stretching ourselves, stretching our capacity, physically, mentally, or psychologically, we are meeting resistance and taking a step forward. There is a sense of discomfort that we need to endure. There is a sense of friction. That friction creates heat, inner heat. And that helps us cultivate, enhance, strengthen our will. We had a whole episode on Sankalpa Shakti, which explains the importance of cultivating our will. Then the 4th niyama is svadhyaya. Svadhyaya is self-study. Some people interpret this as studying by yourself, meaning that you go and study the books, the scriptures, the teachings on your own. Others interpret as being studying oneself in the form of self-reflection, understanding your thoughts, your emotions, your motivations, knowing your strengths and your weaknesses. In truth, both of these are helpful and useful. And then the 5th niyama is Ishvara Pranidhana. Ishvara is the word in Sanskrit for what the West would call God, the Creator. And Pranidhana is surrender. To be devoted to, emotionally linked to, trusting toward, surrendering to the divine will. So following these 5 yamas and niyamas, and each of them is a practice. It's something that you get better at little by little. That will help you enhance your spiritual life. It will help you have better results from your mantra. In order to do serious sadhana, you will also need self-discipline. You will need to organize your life in a very thoughtful, deliberate way. That is essential not only so that you have the time for the sadhana, but also so that your mind is not busy with too many things. If everything in your life is more or less in order, or to an extent that that is happening, it will be easier for your mind to go deeper in your spiritual practice. Then there's the idea of cultivating our Shakti, our power. And this is in the form of cultivating our prana, our vital energy, and cultivating our mind. We had the episode on Sankalpa Shakti, cultivating our will, that when we commit to something, we do it. And cultivating our prana, eating and sleeping in a way that makes us feel greater vitality, that we are harvesting prana, we are expanding our energy, and we are not wasting our energy. And if you reflect upon how you feel day after day, you will notice that there are some types of music that you listen, or movies that you watch, or videos that you watch that make you feel more energized. And there are others that make you feel less energized, or perhaps a little disturbed, or confused, or having less energy, faith, and clarity for your spiritual practice. The more you reflect on the different activities in your life and how they influence you, the more you will have insights about this, and then you'll be able to make better choices. Not out of Puritanism, but simply because you become more aware of what is good for you and what is not good for you. Again, this is a type of svadhyaya, self-study. Another element is being mindful of our speech. Mantra is the power of the word, the power of our word. And if we want to cultivate that power for connecting ourselves to higher vibrations, to a higher life, for mastering ourselves, then we need to become very mindful of how we use our words. That is partially about satya, the second yama, not saying what is untrue. But it's deeper than that. It's about not using our words in a way that hurts, in a way that is meaningless or trivial, not wasting that energy. If we want to use that same instrument to play something sacred, then let's not play something trivial with it. Which is why in retreats, we practice silence as much as possible. And through that, we accumulate a lot of energy and power. So a serious practitioner in the path of mantra will be committed not only to not lying, but also to speaking in moderation, avoiding gossiping, complaining, vulgar words, and meaningless chit-chats. Coming back to the idea of purity, we want to cultivate what is known as a sattvic mind and a sattvic body. Sattvic means pure, harmonious, luminous. And for that purpose, we need to be very mindful of what we consume. What we consume into the body, the type of air we breathe, the type of food we eat, and what the things we drink. And what we consume into our mind through the five senses. The things we read, watch, listen to, etc. And also internally, the thoughts that we are continuing. I say continuing because thoughts come up by themselves, and that's fine. But we have a choice to continue on a certain thread or to just observe and let it go. And when we are continuing a certain thought or a certain emotion, we are enhancing it. We are imprinting it more deeply in our conscious and subconscious mind. Now, we need to make those choices more carefully, more mindfully. And of course, all that I'm saying here is a lifelong practice. It's good to be aware of this. It's good to listen to this or to review this every once in a while. But don't beat yourself up. Know that it's a process. You will get there gradually. If you want to apply the 80-20 principle, think of the top 2 or 3 things that would make the biggest impact for you if you would change. And then just focus on those until you make some significant progress. Now, the final aspect about practicing the path of mantra in daily life is more about maintaining a form of practice itself as you're going about your day. And there are 2 main ways of doing this. One of them is through mantra, and the other is through identity. Through mantra is the simplest. It means that the main mantra that you are practicing when you sit down for your sadhana in that specific time and place, you can be doing that mantra throughout your day in your mind, not whispering, not speaking out loud, but in your mind throughout the day. As you're driving, as you're washing the dishes, as you are eating, as you're walking about, taking shower, etc. It's very difficult to do that while you're doing cognitive work. But when you're not doing cognitive work, instead of scrolling through Instagram or spending your time, your attention, your prana on something less than noble, you can go within and repeat the mantra. Reconnect to that current. And the other way, which is more advanced and requires a bigger explanation, but I'm going to introduce it now. The other way is to remember the deity and to become the deity. Now, perhaps you are surprised at the suggestion. There is an ancient saying in Sanskrit that to worship a deity, you must become a deity. And that is the final goal of Tantra and of the path of mantra. We become that upon which our mind rests. What you think about constantly, you become like that. You imbibe the qualities, the characteristics of that thing that you think about constantly. At the end of the day, we become what we worship. And so in this practice, which is more present in the Shrividya tradition of Tantra, but you will find it everywhere. You would imagine that the energy of the deity is living inside of you, that you and the deity are one, that the deity is living through you. And like this, little by little, your ego gives way to a deeper, more divine identity. And all the things in the superstructure of your personality, all the subtle limitations, the negative thoughts, emotions, illusions, all of that which is not aligned to that new identity that you are connecting with, that you are imbuing, all of that will slowly disappear. And now you see why practicing a mantra is not about just repeating a sound. It's about becoming your higher self. It's about connecting yourself to a form of the divine that you have come to love, appreciate, and connect with. To become like that, to become a vessel, to vibrate in resonance with that. And like this, the ego, the attachments, all the challenges of the lower mind, of the lower life, they get overcome in a way that is most natural and most blissful. This is what it means to practice the path of mantra in your daily life. Jai Mataji.